Hi there, Magenta Pixie here. So there were a couple of comments on the Q&A, the Great Awakening video that I did, the live stream that I did with Dawn, that I found really interesting. So I'd like to read them to you. So one comment, this is specifically about the wall, the border wall, or borders and walls. So first comment, there is no wall on infinity. It is limitless by definition. And unity, by the same definition, to be unified, we need to be connected. We need to take down our walls. Okay, and there's another comment from someone else. And this comment says, I like to think of the national border in the same way I regard personal boundaries. Personal boundaries are not about separation. They're about personal integrity. If I have no personal boundaries, then I am enslaved to whomever would exert will or whim upon me. In like fashion, national borders clearly define what and who may enter. Without this, a nation ceases to exist and all sovereignty is lost. So which one of these individuals is right? There is no wall on infinity. We need to take down our walls. Or walls are national borders. This is about boundaries and about sovereignty. So which one of these individuals is correct? The answer is they both are. You knew that was coming, didn't you? So I'd like to talk more about this because I have actually seen other spiritual teachers talk about the same thing. And what they're saying is that to create a wall, and I'm not just talking about Donald Trump's wall for border security in America, or even about Brexit, which is a sovereignty-based action with or without a physical wall. I'm not just talking about those two things, although obviously that is the way that the whole sovereignty structure is occurring within those two countries. I'm talking about having boundaries and borders within ourselves. So the first person is saying that we are an infinite structure. So I'll have a look at that, that again. There is no wall on infinity. Okay, so this is correct. There is no wall on infinity. Infinity is infinite. And it just goes on and on and on. There is no wall. It's limitless by definition. This is true. Infinity means infinite, and it's therefore limitless. Unity, by the same definition, true. To be unified, we need to be connected and take down our walls. All of that is correct. So may I then add to that by saying, and I'm sure I probably discussed this in the Q&A, but I'm going to go into it a little bit more because it is such a big issue at the moment. We are infinite beings. Therefore, the boundaries to our structure is by definition limitless. We do not have walls. We do not have boundaries. We do not have endings to our structure. That is true. We are infinite. Because we are incarnated within a physical body, and we are currently going through a collective conscious awakening, planetary-wide, we are learning to understand the nature of what we are. We are learning to understand the nature of our infinity. If we are to look at ourselves as infinite structures without borders, without the balance needed to understand infinity and also unity, being two sides of the same coin, as this poster has said, if we don't have the balance to understand the limitless nature of our infinity and our unity, then basically anything goes. There's no structure whatsoever, there's no balance when anything goes. In order to understand that infinite nature, we, with a third dimensional brain, we need to compartmentalize what we are with relation to everyone else, because we experience separation here in this reality. How we do this is to understand our own infinite nature. We understand the structure of what we are, our energy system, which is infinite. In order for the third dimensional brain to understand this infinite unification, we need to compartmentalize it. So the 9 speak to me about compartmentalized unification. It is taking the unified infinite structure and segregating levels or octaves, like music, within that infinite nature. And if you look at a symphony, if you look at a piece of music, that piece of music can be played on and on and on and can be infinite. But when you break it down, there are several different compartments to that overall symphony based on all the different musical instruments used to create the symphony. So there are parts within the whole. The symphony doesn't exist without the parts. The symphony isn't created without the musical instruments. We are the same. So in order to understand our infinite nature, our unified self, we compartmentalize, and we need to use a structure that the third dimensional brain understands. So we create a set of infinite geometries to express our energy system. Those infinite geometries can be expressed in never-ending straight lines. So we can have a never-ending straight line going into the future. Our future is infinite, for we are conscious beings that will live forever, if you know what I mean. Live forever beyond the physical. Our consciousness lives forever. We are immortal consciousness, because consciousness is infinite. So the straight line going towards the future is an infinite line. The straight line going into our past is an infinite line, because the past is simply the other direction from the future. It's that which we have experienced rather than that which we are going to experience. And in an infinity, it's all the same thing. We can have lines going to the left of us, lines going to the right of us, which would signify all the other options and choices that we may have as an infinite being, all the other different paths that we could take. We can also have diagonal lines as well, which may signify the ancestral lines that we have incarnated along within both a linear path and also within a quantum path. So we create these straight lines, if you like, for our third dimensional brain to understand the infinite nature of our energy system. This is only one model of understanding our energy system. There are many models out there, and this is just one. In order for us to understand third dimensionally that these lines go on and on and on forever, because our third dimensional brain thinks in measurement, as in start and finish, as in a scale, we can create a scale by putting a circle around those infinite lines. But that circle is only there as a measurement tool for us to understand the sacred geometry of who we are. That circle that goes around those straight lines doesn't actually exist, because the straight lines are infinite. That circle is an event horizon. The event horizon is something one cannot reach. The closer you get to it, the further it moves away, because it's a border to our infinity. It's a border that doesn't exist. But in order for us to understand our own infinite nature and our own unification, we move into the understanding of compartmentalized unification. And we do this through the understanding of what the event horizon is. Now, this is going on collectively within all the enlightened individuals on this planet, all the starseeds, one way or another. They might not necessarily be using this model. They may be using different models. They may be following models that other spiritual teachers have delivered, or they may even have their own intrinsic knowings. But at the end of the day, they are all learning to understand the infinite nature of who and what they are on an energetic level. As they do this, their paradigm, their new structured paradigm based on this infinite unified model radiates out across the planet and reaches others. When I say reaches others, I don't just mean people, I mean living structures, living cells, living DNA, living particles, and that creates a match within the physical world. And that match is one of sovereignty, because understanding the infinite nature of yourself is you becoming sovereign and doing it in a balanced way rather than the anything goes, because you don't have any compartmentalization. If you're looking at a symphony with no compartmentalization, that's like saying, okay, everyone here with a musical instrument, start playing it. It's going to be a really horrible noise and you're going to put your hands over your ears and think, what is that? There's no composition to it. That's the same thing as someone who doesn't have any balance or any structure within their infinity, within their infinite nature. One compartmentalizes the unification and one understands one's infinite nature. That is the creation of the symphony. That's like saying, okay, I'm going to take the violin here and the trumpet here and the drum here, and I'm going to put them all together and create this wonderful piece of music that's going to make everyone think, wow, what bliss. That's what we're doing. So we do have a boundary. It's a boundary that doesn't exist, but it's there as a measurement tool. It's an event horizon. So having said all that, I'll go back to this person's comment. So there is no wall on infinity, correct, but there is an event horizon. It's limitless by definition. It absolutely is. It's limitless because each directional axis is infinite. There is no end to it, but we use the event horizon as a border in order for us to understand our own infinity. Otherwise, we become anything goes, and we are not a balanced, infinite structure. We are chaotic energetically. To be unified, we need to be connected. Absolutely. We need to take down our walls. Absolutely. To be unified, we do not need walls. So let us then, I've already explained how being unified and not needing walls and why we have an event horizon as a border, as a structure within ourselves energetically, because we don't want to be a symphony that sounds dreadful with no composition, no composer, no director. We are the composer, we are the composition, we are the director. Therefore, we create the event horizon in order to have compartmentalized unification. Let us move that now to a country. Let's take America. Donald Trump wants to build a wall for border security. This is simply a reflection of this radiation that is occurring within the starseeds and the enlightened individuals as they discover their own infinite nature. They move into compartmentalized unification that radiates out and is caught by other beings, other structures. One of them is the country, manifested through the president. So he's wanting a wall for border security. And there are many, many, many other reasons within the whole dimensional scale as to why that is there. What I'm specifically talking about here is whether that is against unification. So it's not in the sense that it is taking the country into sovereignty. It's the same thing as Brexit. It's exactly the same. But if you want true unity with the world as a planet, then we don't want any walls. We want those borders to come down. That is the way forward for fifth dimensional Gaia. So if you are looking at this planet as an infinite, unified planet, we certainly don't need a wall. We don't want to keep anyone in. We don't want to keep anyone out. We don't want to not have unity. Looking from a British point of view, we want unity with Europe. and looking from an American point of view, we don't want any walls. That is the fifth dimensional Gaia. And it's beautiful. However, we are in the year 2019. And when we look on a linear scale, fifth dimensional Gaia is hundreds and hundreds of years in the future, if not thousands of years in the future. Now, to the enlightened individuals and the starseeds, they're already embracing fifth dimensional energy. So for them, it's here now. They don't have to wait hundreds and hundreds of years and thousands of years for fifth dimensional Gaia and the new Earth and ascension. They have it now today because they are not living fully in linear time. Therefore, they have jumped into the future thousands and thousands of years and they're living it now. So from their eyes, they look around at the reality they are in and they see, I don't want a wall. I don't want to not be unified with Europe. I want unification and togetherness with all because I'm in fifth dimensional Gaia. They are correct. However, from the point of view from the individuals who are in 2019 and are not awakened and fully enlightened and are in that state, I'm not saying these people are fully enlightened, but in a state of enlightenment, they are in linear time and are experiencing linear time. And when I say they, I mean everyone with a physical body. Everybody incarnated in a physical body, no matter their paradigm, are living in the year 2019 on Earth. So from that point of view, fifth dimensional Gaia is thousands of years in the future. So how do we get from now, which is a chaotic reality, it is an infiltrated and controlled reality by a group who do not want unity. How do we break away from this controlled, chaotic reality and get to fifth dimensional Gaia? If we take all our borders and walls away now in 2019, then those that want to control us can fly on in and just control us. So we need to find a way to get to sovereignty and unity. And how we do that is through compartmentalised unification. So we compartmentalize these structures that are planetary structures called countries or domains, communities, in order to then reach out into unification. So we do the same with the country that we're doing with our energetic system. We create an event horizon so that we can understand our own infinite nature. That radiates out and falls into the manifestation of the physical. So Donald Trump's wall is a border that is keeping out that which would cause control and chaos, keeping in that which needs to be safe within the border of that domain. The same thing with Brexit without the physical wall. We want unification with Europe. However, we want unification with a true Europe, a true world that is all unified and living within that which is part of unification, which is empathy and compassion. But at the moment, we're in the year 2019. And empathy and compassion on a global scale is thousands of years away in the new Earth and in Gaia. So we want to remove ourselves from that which would control us, which is the European Union, and become sovereign as a country. So we move away from unification to create the event horizon, the border. So that's where we are in the year 2019. So I'm going to come to the second poster who explains this extremely well. I'd like to think of the national border in the same way I regard personal boundaries. Now, as I was saying, someone who doesn't have any understanding of their own infinite nature has no personal boundaries. Anything goes. Do whatever they want, say whatever they want, upset people, do crazy things, don't live within integrity, because they don't have any boundaries. So they create boundaries as they become enlightened, as they become a person of integrity. They learn to create the event horizon within their own infinite nature. So that is what is called a personal boundary. That's the same thing. Personal boundaries are not about separation. Absolutely 100% true. They are about personal integrity. Absolutely 100% true. If I have no personal boundaries, I'm enslaved to whomever would exert will or whim upon me. 100% true. That's exactly how it is. In like fashion, national borders clearly define what and who may enter. Absolutely. Without this, a nation ceases to exist. Absolutely true. And sovereignty is lost. I mean, I could not have put that better. That's perfectly said. So I hope I'm explaining here why the wall that Donald Trump wants is absolutely the way forward for true unity. We have sovereignty first. Within our own energy structure, once we learn about the event horizon and we learn about the measurement that is presented as a boundary within our infinite structure, we then learn about infinity itself and how we are everything. That is why infinity and unity are one and the same thing, two sides of the same coin. We are unified with all things because we are all things. Once we come to a certain point of understanding that, we can then metaphorically look outside of that event horizon and see a mirror, a reflection, because we are living in a fractal holographic reality. When we look outside of our infinity, what do we see? We see another infinity that's a reflection of us, that's manifested or created itself in a slightly different way due to all the different permutations of the quantum reality that we live in. So we see another infinity, and then we might look and see another infinity and another one and another one, and we might actually create an event horizon geometric structure around ourselves that fits perfectly with those other infinities to create a greater infinity, which is creation itself. So if we look down upon creation, we see all these infinite structures with their event horizon boundaries fitting together like a huge, huge pattern. But they can't fit with one another. They can't create the correct geometric structure in order to fully merge with another infinity until they understand their own infinity. Because it's a fractal reality, you have to go to the very central core of who you are to create the understanding of your fractal infinity and then fit with all these other infinities. And that's exactly what is happening to this planet and other planets that are reflecting that which we are. We can't take America and fit with all the other countries and take Britain and fit with the European Union and all the other countries because we haven't yet learned the structure of our own infinity. We haven't moved into compartmentalised unification. So let's say America becomes unified within all the states of America and it becomes a United States of America, which is the whole reason why the label United States was given in the first place, was to unite these states together on a spiritual level. And it's the same over here with Britain, the United Kingdom. They unite together with the understanding of the sovereignty that they create with the borders. And when they become sovereign, and I am not talking about being controlled. So that's why we're looking at the future to get there. Even though some of us are there now, because we've already gone through all this within our own personal enlightenment, there are others within the linear time and the linear time itself that's still in the year 2019. So what will happen is sovereignty and unification will occur within the United States and the United Kingdom. And they will no longer be controlled countries. They will be truly free countries with a free government, a free governing society with governments that stand in integrity Now, we are not really that close to this at the moment in England. In Britain, we are shuffling everything up to get there, and it's going to take some time, and it looks like chaos. America's a little bit further on because they have Donald Trump, who is a representative of that new energy, regardless of what you think of him as a person. But you've got those that want to control that structure, trying to block him and bring him down and stop his plans. So you've got just as much chaos occurring there that you have here, but for a different reason. At least in America, you actually have a representative from the new energy of integrity, working towards sovereignty and compartmentalised unification. You don't have this in Britain yet, but there's a stirring, and it's occurring in all the other countries as well. When all these countries become sovereign, then they create their own geometries, and that manifests as trade and immigration and all the other things that occurs on a physical level. They lock together as geometric domains and create a geometry, a beautiful balanced geometry around the earth. Now, up until recent times, the geometry around the earth has been a false generated structure that isn't real, and it's been held in place by this dark service to self structure. It's been a false beam. It's been a lockdown of the true growth. When these different domains, these countries, become unified and no longer controlled, and that creates this completely new geometry around the planet, that's when a planet is said to have reached completion and become galactic. Now that, as I've explained, is thousands of years in the future, or potentially hundreds, depending on the timeline, from the point of view of 2019 on a linear scale. When we look at fifth dimensionally aware individuals and starseeds and activated individuals, they're there now. They are already living in a reality with this superimposed geometry of light on their reality because of the paradigm they hold. The ones that are there now are creating the reality that we're going towards in the future, because they are creating the trajectory that creates the timeline to get us there. So it's up to the starseeds whether it takes 100 years or several hundred years or several thousand years as to when we get there and how we get there and how we become sovereign. So what I'm doing here is looking at two different perspectives of the borders and walls, if you like, both correct. Neither of these individuals are incorrect. They're both correct. And both perspectives are valid. But one is coming from the point of view we are already unified and living within an infinity. And the other is coming from the point of view of how to get there. We need both of these. We need both of these viewpoints. So I hope I have explained a little bit more what I meant in the Q&A video that I did with Dawn Holliday, my lovely friend. I hope I have explained a little bit more about what I was trying to say about how borders and walls are sorely needed right now within our own personal structure, personal boundaries, event horizon of our infinite nature, and within our physical world, within the political structure. This is why I personally, from a purely objective viewpoint, support the intention behind creating the wall, Trump's wall, and the intention behind Brexit. How this actually manifests may occur in many different ways. I also would like to add one more thing. I actually heard someone say earlier last week that even if Donald Trump's wall is built, it won't sustain. it won't sustain because it isn't part of the eco-structure of this planet, and it doesn't have the right, I can't remember the exact words, but it doesn't have the right energy to sustain. And what I would say to that is that that is actually correct, because once there is a unification within that country and there is no longer control, there won't be any need to keep anyone out that shouldn't be in. There won't be any need to keep people in to keep them safe, because we'll have unification and sovereignty. But the vibration of the individuals living on this planet will have raised greatly by that time. So there won't be any need for a physical wall. But again, it's up to the starseeds, the enlightened individuals, and their paradigm, and what they radiate through that paradigm, through the DNA activation. It is up to them as to how long it takes to get there physically, and how we get there, and which timeline we take. Because the starseeds are creating the reality for this planet. I don't want to create upset in people by saying that fifth dimensional Gaia and ascension and the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension and all that is thousands of years away. Because it isn't. It's here now for those who are in that paradigm. It's a superimposing of linear time and non-linear time merging together. There is an event horizon, which is a boundary or a border that doesn't exist. And that event horizon is separating linear time from non-linear time, or you could also say matter from antimatter. It'd be the same thing. That event horizon is simply a boundary for us to use as a measuring tool of where linear time begins and ends, and where non-linear time begins and ends, or where matter begins and ends and where antimatter begins and ends. So we sit on the edge of these two realities, two worlds, two earths, if you like. We sit within the event horizon and we merge the two. So those that are in an enlightened state, those who are moving through ascension, are going to be embracing both of these realities within their journey, linear time and non-linear time, matter and antimatter. But we don't sit on that event horizon all the time. That's the place of balance. That is the place that is known as the middle way. That is the place known as the Tao. It is the 0 point also. It is the place of pure objectivity. We do not stay there all the time, and sometimes we jump to one or the other. So we might jump to non-linear time, which is antimatter, and say, we're unified. Fifth dimensional Gaia is here now. We don't have to wait hundreds of years. That's not true. It's absolutely not true for Magenta to say we're going to wait hundreds of years for ascension and the fifth dimension. It's rubbish. It's here now. Those people are correct when they're there in the paradigm that takes them into antimatter or non-linear time. And then we might have others that jump over here into linear time and into the reality of matter, and they would come with the point of view, perhaps when they're only there, that this doesn't exist. There is no future where we become sovereign. Everything is chaotic. That's just one perspective within matter or within linear time. But either one, we jump from one to the other. The aim is to stay within the core, stay within the balance, stay within the event horizon, so that we merge the two. And it's exactly the same thing as sitting in the very center of the two hemispheres of the brain. If we're in the left hemisphere of the brain, we're going to see things in a matter linear sense. And if we're in the right hemisphere of the brain, we will see things in a antimatter non-linear sense. The feminine, the masculine, it's all the same thing. We are looking at divine alchemy. We are looking at the divine marriage, the sacred hand fasting, the twin flame union. It's all the same thing. We're sitting on the event horizon. We're in the 0 point. We are embracing these two realities. And it isn't just two realities. It merges out like this, like a flower. We are multidimensional in this paradigm. And the more individuals who think with this balance, who embrace the twin flame, the event horizon balance, the center between the two brain hemispheres, the matter antimatter merge, the more people that embrace that paradigm in their everyday life, allowing it to come into every decision they make, they are the individuals creating that reality. Because we and our environment, as in our outer reality, the reality outside of us, or that we perceive as being outside of us, that is our environment. We are at one with our environment. Why? Because we are infinite and we are all things. We are infinite and unified. We are unified with all things because we are all things. Therefore, our environment and ourselves are one, and the straight vertical axis lines of our matrix is the environment, because we are infinite. Therefore, every paradigm that we embrace creates the matching reality. So it's not true from that point of view that's over here in antimatter that we have to wait thousands of years for Gaia. It's here now. Every time we think it, we are it. Every time we know that we live within a fifth dimensional reality, we are it. But then when we go and say something like, we need to take down our walls, it's true. But hold on a second. We're over here. We're in 2019. We're in linear reality. We can't take our walls down in this reality. We can only take our walls down in this reality. So we need to be aware of where we are within our paradigm. And it's confusing to newly awakened individuals who are just coming into multidimensional ways of thinking. It's confusing for them when they see a viewpoint coming from the linear and a viewpoint coming from the nonlinear. Which one is true? When they haven't learned to be multidimensional or to become bilocational in their thinking. So we, who have an understanding of this multidimensional consciousness, for us to be in balance, it would be good for us and good for the people that are finding us and learning to teach and speak about the balance of two, and then obviously three and multi. But at the moment, the bilocational consciousness is about embracing the male and the female. And that's a whole other issue, gender issue. There are not just two genders. There's more than two genders. When we go forward into this multidimensional reality, that is something else that is occurring on this reality now as we create seeds for a third and for multi-genders. That's a whole other subject, but it's all linked together. And we need to embrace what is happening on this planet. All these different things that are occurring that are making people melt down with all these unexpected and what appears to be horrifically chaotic situations that are springing up. Everything has a seed point into something else, and everything can be taken in a negative or a positive sense. If we're standing in that balance, then we can clearly see. That is where we have our vantage point from the event horizon, from the twin flame union, from the 0 point. That place is where we activate the pineal gland. The pineal gland is the inner camera. It creates the reflection that we see. It creates it in reality. The 9 call this the crystal river of light sight. That's the place that activates the pineal gland, which is simultaneous with the DNA and the frequencies of bliss, ecstasy, and euphoria. All of these are all the same thing. So it's only from that point of view, that crystal river of light sight, that pineal gland, that we can see all of these different multidimensional octaves and levels of reality. That is the place we need to see and view. This is the place we need to make decisions from. And this is the place if we see ourselves as teachers or guides, this is the place we teach and guide from. It's the place of authenticity, and it's the place of sovereignty. So I know I've looked at lots and lots of different concepts here, but everything is tied up in what is going on the physical reality. And these two comments that may appear opposing, and certainly are looking at the whole sort of border walls issue from opposing points of view. One is saying take them down, another one is saying keep them up. They're both correct. I hope I've given you a little bit of bilocational consciousness there regarding what is going on right now. Two massive issues. One over here in the UK, Brexit, over the pond in America, Trump's wall. Two big issues, all tied up with our spirituality and our ascension path. So thank you very much for listening, and have a lovely day. It's snowing here in the United Kingdom. Very beautiful to look at. And yeah, I hope you have a lovely day, and I will speak to you again. Namaste. Bye.
In this channeled transmission, I enter into an expansive, transformative and activating exploration of interdimensional dialogue, discussing the mechanics of Stargate Ascension. This cutting-edge information holds key codes, maps and coordinates for the starseeds on Earth, as they go through this process of DNA reconstruction and regrouping of cosmic memory themselves. The significant codex of information is downloaded to the reader, as they, through this sacred text, are called by the Dragon, Excalibur, Crystalline Light Geometry, Atlantis, and the Emerald Flame. I am so very pleased to present my new book, The Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame.